The Fallen are once the most notorious rebels in our solar system. They would invade planets and moons, scavenging for what they needed to survive, and eventually found their way back to the Traveler that had betrayed them so long ago. But as the Guardians began to defend with the power of the light, their ranks quickly diminished, and by the tail end of Destiny 1, not much remained of the Fallen at all, and they were sort of forced to band back together. Today we're going to dive into some new season of the Drifter lore that explains what's currently going on with the Fallen leadership. We'll talk things like Variks, Fikrul, a new House of Light, and tons more.
Do you think the Great Machine has noticed what we did? Will it speak to me again? Tell me where the great Elixni have gone. They say Fallen are evil. No. Fallen are lost.
Alright, welcome back Guardians, hope you're having an amazing day, and let's talk about the current Fallen leadership and who's possibly at the top. Now last time we talked about Variks, we learned that he caused the prison break in Forsaken and let all the Barons free, which in turn killed our friend Cayde 6. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this card titled Outliers from the new release, and then we'll discuss all of it afterwards, and you can give your thoughts in the comments below as well. Subject: Countercultural Intelligence Update 1. Fallen armed forces continue to fall back from active fronts across Terra. Factions of House Dusk remain active in the European Dead Zone. Throughout the rest of the globe, refugee attack incidents have dropped by more than 70% since the conclusion of the Red War, largely attributable to depressed Fallen and human populations rather than significant change in interspecies relations. 2. In absence of any united leadership, House Dusk continues to splinter and radicalize. The recent trending emergence of the so-called crime syndicates is emblematic of the continuing destructuralization of Fallen society. Likely an artifact of multi-generational colonization of human strongholds, this agent believes that because these syndicates have no relation to indigenous Fallen culture, young Fallen are appropriating and imitating human mythology in the absence of a strong cultural heritage of their own. Much like the dissolution of the Kell or Archon theology, this is positive news for those interested in complete extirpation of invasive Fallen from the system. That being said, we should continue to monitor reunification efforts. Several personalities have emerged as potential leaders. First, the would-be integrationist. VIP number 1121, well known to the Guardians of the Inner System as Variks or Variks the Loyal. Directly responsible for the release of the murderer Aldrin Saw from the Prison of Elders, Variks subsequently fled Awoken Holdings in the Reef and now styles himself as Kell of Kells, still representing House Judgement. The Praxic Order has petitioned the Vanguard for permission to detain number 1121 or Variks. The Awoken Monarchy, acting through the Queen's Wrath, has claimed jurisdiction over Variks and further stated that any prosecution in absence of their involvement will be considered an act of war. The Vanguard has not yet made a statement about their position on the issue. VIP number 3987, another former Confederate of the Awoken, is a lesser-known personality known as Mithrax. Scattered field reports suggest that, like Variks, Mithrax styles himself as a Kell of the so-called House Light, an otherwise unknown house apparently founded by Mithrax himself. We have secondhand accounts that Mithrax has engaged in allied operations with Guardians in the field, though we have not as yet been able to corroborate these accounts with any degree of veracity. This agent is inclined to treat these reports with a healthy degree of skepticism until otherwise confirmed, as they may be propaganda from Fallen synthesizers in Old Russian and Red War Guardian cohorts. We have requested intelligence records from the Awoken which may further clarify the matter. In addition, whatever the findings of said intelligence records may be, it should be stressed that one or two sympathetic outliers cannot be relied upon to erase the wrongs of past centuries, nor should their good faith efforts to correct the sins of their forebears be taken as sufficient symbolic reparation. Second, we have the would-be separatists. VIP number 4503, a recent personality known as Fikrul or the Fanatic. A close confederate of the murderer Aldrin Saw, Fikrul has the apparent ability to raise himself from the dead in a manner not dissimilar to ghost-aided resurrection. Though his reign of the Tangled Shore was limited, he possesses sufficient skill, hatred, and motive to warrant ongoing surveillance. Given Fikrul's propensity for resurrection, the inherent risk of Fikrul reclaiming the body of the murderer Aldrin Saw from his final resting place in the Dreaming City goes without saying. The Vanguard continues to deploy fire teams to suppress Fikrul. Our agents have reached out to the Cryptarchy and Gensum scribes to request guidance as to his permanent destruction. And lastly, VIP 2029, a once-known personality known as Eramis, or Eramis the Ship Stealer. This particular Fallen was a House Devil's Baroness incarcerated during the Wolf Wars. Eramis herself successfully fled from the Prison of Elders during the mass escape orchestrated by Variks. Eramis is a classical fallen pirate of the old ways, vicious, uncompromising, and possessing cunning of the highest degree. Field reports indicate that she is rallying violent dissidents to reconstruct House Devils from the ground up. This agent believes her to be the most viable candidate for universal fallen unification, and would urge the Vanguard and other interested leadership to aggressively prioritize her destruction. We have come too far to pull our punches now, and then the message ends. So personally, I'm super glad Bungie decided to further expand this Fallen story. Things are getting really mysterious and intense and makes you wonder which one of these candidates will come up on top. So first we have the acknowledgement of the House of Dusk actually being a thing. Now we kind of already knew this was always true, but Bungie confirms the Dusk are still a threat or issue out there in the wild. The card said they will continue to radicalize, so they're going to continue to split into groups, do whatever they need to survive, which makes sense because this is the whole reason they abandoned their banners in the first place, to try and evolve and survive much like they did when the Great Machine resided on their homeworld. Now this isn't to say something else was going on behind the scenes, because I'm sure there probably was, but we actually get confirmation with this card of other possible Fallen leadership within the system. First up we have Variks the Loyal. Variks did cause the prison break, but it wasn't out of revenge or hatred towards the city and the Guardians. So although we never know, we can see his intentions when he boarded the ship and left the reef. Back in a card from Forsaken, it says this: "Nowhere else to go, no one else to be here." He drew himself up to his full height, and so I become Variks the Kell, House Judgement envoy to the Eliksni people. "No choice," he repeated, chuckling deep in his throat. His voice was calm. "Eliksni must rise, yes?" So Variks is now the Kell of the House of Judgement and plans to rebuild his fallen species. He says there is no other way and that he can help rebuild what was once the best of his own people. Now in the Outliers card we also learned that Anor, the whole Praxic Order thing, wants to investigate and deal with Variks themselves, but Petra sort of has other plans. They're like, stay out of this, if you take any action we'll consider it an act of war. So not sure about you, but I'm super excited to see where these Fallen stories lead, Variks and Mithrax in particular, and I hope some of that actually makes it into the main game and cinematics. That would definitely be pretty cool. Next up we have Fikrul. So Fikrul was killed in Forsaken, but he has this power of resurrection and will continually come back to life until the Guardians find a way to end him for good. This is essentially the whole reason he still poses a threat to Fallen leadership. If he somehow broke free and was able to control and band together the House of Dusk, for example, they could become a Scorn army all over again, and that's definitely not what we want. Now last, this brings us to the two most mysterious Fallen leaders. We have Mithrax and a new leader resurrecting the House of Devils, which is the Red Banners which were once on Earth. So first up, Mithrax. Now Mithrax came into action more prominently in Forsaken, where we learned of his backstory with the Awoken and Petravenge. But before we learned of that information, we actually encountered this particular Fallen in an adventure on Titan where he was trying to get a methane reactor. We can see his name was titled Mithrax the Forsaken, so if you chose to kill the knight and not him, he would just sort of give you this machine and not mess with you at all and transmat out.
I think that captain just gave us the reactor. You think you understand the Fallen, and then... Well, let's take it. Sloane's waiting. Sloane, you'll never guess what happened.
You killed a captain and found a methane reactor?
We didn't kill him. He let us have it. Just looked at us and left.
Fascinating.
Now if you would like to learn more on Mithrax, I have a video here on my channel, but here's a little rundown if you are new. So after befriending Petra and the Awoken a long time ago, he was forced to join House Dusk due to his species' current state. After realizing things weren't going too good for himself, Mithrax set out to learn the ways of the light. He's seen in humanity that we benefited from the Traveler and not the Eliksni like they once did on their own homeworld, so he wanted to change this. Now also back in Forsaken, we learned that Mithrax was on a mission with a Guardian fire team, so he was kind of a part of them. So this House of Light is a faction possibly looking to use the light to their advantage, much like the humans. If we are both forced to stay here and live on this planet under the Traveler, why not do it together instead of fighting each other for hundreds of years? And lastly, we have Eramis, hopefully I said that right, who is a female Baroness who was once a part of the House of Devils. Now she is known more prominently for stealing ships back during the Reef Wars and was eventually captured and thrown into the Prison of Elders by the Awoken and their forces. Now thanks to Variks opening the prison for everybody, she was able to escape and began plotting the Devil's return right away, which is quite enforcing. They do say that she is the most viable candidate for Fallen unification and needs to be dealt with as soon as possible, so that's going to be cool to see unfold for sure, as we thought all these banners were dead. We thought they joined the House of Dusk, but some of these Fallen are going rogue, creating syndicates and trying to rebuild their own versions of what the Fallen are. Now in terms of biggest threat, in my opinion, it would either be Eramis or Fikrul. Now I don't think Bungie would explore Fikrul any further, but there's always that possibility due to his current nature. Now you never know, Variks could use that Kell power to turn against us, but my gut feeling tells me that both him and Mithrax have power, yes, but they simply want to keep their own people alive and could possibly live alongside humanity with the benefit of the Traveler's light. Anyway, Guardians, that's all I got for today's video. Let me know down below, who do you think the new Fallen leader will be, which ones are good, which ones are evil, and also tell me what you'd like to see in future videos. Please be sure to like this video up if you enjoyed, and I thank you very much for watching. My name's Evade, and I'll catch you Guardians in the next one.